what can the Republican Party do from developing from the midterms? From what are the main issues developing now from the midterms for the Republican Party?
So to the party in general, there's ongoing economic. We've been over turmoil. Some of our economic metrics look very good. Others of them not so good, and a lot of the experience of the average day-to-day Americans' lives has been pretty hampered by inflationary policies. The government just passed a very large budget spending bill. So on the top of mind, I think of most voters today are day-to-day economic issues, inflation, gas prices, the prices of groceries and other household items that people are purchasing all the time. That was a growing issue during the midterms, and it persisted through the midterm. And I think it's going to be pretty important to voters going into the election next year.
Especially like with your organization helping minorities, that's definitely impacting their businesses and education throughout the year into next election. It's going to have a big impact.
Yes, a lot of Americans of color, unfortunately, are fixed income, and we see stock prices kind of trend with inflation. The money's those are very liquid markets. It's very easy for inflation for those stocks and equities to trend with inflation. And if you're invested in the stock market, if you own equities, inflation is less harmful to you than it would be if you're on a fixed income. And like I said, unfortunately, many Americans of color are lower income or fixed income. And so inflation hits those people especially hard, especially when it shows up in the price of gasoline, the price of groceries, etc.
And what's interesting about the party, although they didn't win the New York governor race last year, the Republican Party was able to pick up a lot of great House seats as well. So it might not be victories per se, but there's also minor issues that the Republican Party can focus more on, more local constituencies into next year's general election.
Yes, that was a very interesting election. And I think, if you're familiar with American politics, the House of Representatives is much larger than the Senate, and that's where the Republican Party did very well. It's very hyper-localized elections. And so you win those elections by being very in tune with very specific issues facing, a very specific small geographic group of people. And so things like school choice isn't necessarily a federal issue, but a lot of those candidates were talking about school choice, traditional values as they show up in community programs and school curriculum become very important to voters, and they feel they have a more amplified voice through their representative probably than through their senator or, of course, through the president. So those kind of smaller day-to-day issues really worked for Republicans last year.
And is your organization going to participate within the primary election this year? And heading into next year, into the RNC?
We're an independent media organization, and so we don't any particular candidates, but we do promote just about any Republican that is running for office or is in office who happens to be a person of color. But we will be, participating and creating content and around both primary season and general election season to promote candidates that share our values.
And back to the House seats, in like California, for example, Republican minority candidates did very well, picked up a lot of success, especially the candidates I've seen from South Korea, for example. So it's very entrepreneurial in like a lot of more liberal states also.
Yes, those issues. So Young Kim is a great example. Orange County, Southern California, a very liberal area. But she really focused on the very specific kind of nuanced needs or concerns of her particular community. And like I said, that comes down to, things like school programming, school curriculum, school choice. Again, a lot of those decisions are not made at the federal level, but voters feel that they have a voice through their representative for these kinds of issues because they're so close, they're very local. Her district, for example, geographically is very, very small. There's a lot of people in there, but they know her, and Republicans have done a really good job in tune with the day-to-day realities and needs of communities, of all communities, but communities of color that are facing inflation, that they're facing rising prices. Those are very real and kind of urgent issues to people. A lot of the issues that her opponent was talking about tend to be kind of broader stroke, progressive kind of high-minded ideas that they don't necessarily turn people off. It's just they don't really hit home as well as a lot of the issues that affect people every single day.
And what's interesting is from last general election, President Trump, a lot of the media didn't cover this, but he actually got 35% of the Muslim vote. Do you feel that the Republican Party can get better at this in the next election and even improve on the record turnout of last election?
Well, yes, definitely. That's a big talking point, for the party, and for good reason, because there's a lot of data to support kind of a big influx of those kinds of voters into the Republican Party. And again, I know I've said this several times, but at the local level, there's a lot of organizing around concerns about schools and community programs and rhetoric and different just things that people are seeing every day that is it's concerning to them on almost a moral level, sometimes almost a religious level. Family values are very important to a lot of communities in America, both communities of color and not. And those are issues that Republicans have been talking about for a very long time. It kind of became unpopular about 10 years ago to talk about that, and it didn't work so well for Republicans, and it's kind of come back around where a lot of candidates are talking about family values, traditional values, and addressing the concerns that parents have about, the communities where their children are being raised, what they're learning, what they're hearing, all sorts of different things. But addressing parents and family issues has been a pretty big deal.
And in the Republican Party, today's Republican Party, we've actually seen candidates with their experiences. For example, Tim Scott, for example, coming from a single mother household, for example, is now a Republican nominee. That can connect with a lot of voters.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I think there are four, at least four candidates, non-white, candidates of color running for president on the Republican side, which is unprecedented. And I think that their stories are often very different than what many people expect a Republican candidate's story to look like. And so it's going to take a lot of people by surprise. And I think it's going to work out very well for Republicans. Even if they don't win the nomination, a lot of different faces on that page that a lot of people can relate to that are probably going to be surprised to learn.
Thank you very much for your time today with this short interview.
Yeah, of course. Always happy to chat.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.